So that's how we sync up the audio. A little clapping.
All right. Is that a part of the podcast?
Yeah. All right. So welcome to the Dreamrun podcast with Chase and Tuma, Volume 2. There's no Tuma here today, but we do have he got called into work, so we have jobs and stuff happens. But we've got John Sahakian here.
Sahakian.
Sahakian. For some reason, I thought your name. It's in my phone as like it says your last name twice, and at some point,
Sahakian.
Yeah.
All
Is
right.
that a thing? Is that
it's funny. It's not a thing, but my grandfather's brother's name was Sahakian, and he was a boxer in Northern California, like way back in the day. And his boxing name he used was Joe McIntyre. Isn't that funny? I haven't told anybody that. Like,
yeah,
I don't think I've ever told
strange.
anybody that.
Well,
it's a bit of trivia.
You just told everyone here, so
Yeah, all right.
it's pretty exciting stuff.
Who knows? Maybe there's someone out there that knows him, and there's a trust that I'm not aware of.
Maybe there's like a clip out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Of him boxing.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So at some point, so actually, it's kind of funny. I was thinking about this today, but we met because we surfed together. I don't know, how long ago was that? 4 or 5 years ago?
I don't think it's been that long.
No? Okay,
Yeah,
because Bodie was probably like
maybe
14?
It was before COVID.
Okay.
So maybe like
4 years?
Maybe closing in on that.
We were surfing, we were chatting, which was cool, but it's like, just, hopefully see you around or whatever. But I happened to drop my wallet next to your car. Then you found me on Instagram, drove to my house. That's a good deed right there. Have you had any good karma come back from that?
Oh, I'm not keeping track, but I've had a lot of good karma. I think in my life, I'm filled with karmic gratitude.
Wow.
That's the first time I've ever used that phrase.
Yeah, that's pretty great. And then, Instagram friends, and then I just, obviously just see you a lot more in the water. So it's all good things.
Yeah. I was excited to find you because it's always satisfying to be the hero for a minute.
It's not a fun
find the
thing.
Wallet. No, find the
to
wallet.
Lose the wallet,
and then it's like I could tell when I heard your voice, you were stoked. I was waiting. That was the dopamine rush for me. Was like, oh yeah, he's stoked. And I don't think I think you were definitely happy about it.
I'm sure I was.
That.
I mean, no one wants to lose and have to replace and go through that nightmare.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of money, so if someone got their hands on that.
Yeah, I don't think there was any money in it, really.
No, and even if I do have cash, it's never like in that little card wallet. It's just in my pockets, but. So anyways, I mean, I kind of told you a little bit about what we're trying to do here, but just, just starting out with our friends and seeing what's going on, and obviously surfing, skating. I mean, you grew up, and it's unfortunate Tuma's not here today, but I mean, you guys kind of grew up, you're about 50, right?
I know everyone thinks I'm 50, but I'm 55, almost 56.
Whoa. Wow, you don't look a day over 54, John. Seriously. Okay, so right around the same time, right? Santa Monica, you said, or?
My dad lived in Glendale, and my mom lived in Ocean Park.
Oh, cool.
And they split up when I was 9. So I think at that time, speaking of skateboarding, I think I had a Logan Earth Ski.
You're gonna have to,
a Logan Earth Ski.
You have to educate us on that.
Those were with Sim snakes, and it was kind of the thing at that time. And that was just before I got the Powell Peralta, where the boards went wide, and everyone was
so it was one of those little like almost Dogtown era, like
skinny,
like. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then you got the Powell Peralta.
Yeah. But
nice.
it was about 10 years old, 10, 11.
And you started pushing around Santa Monica Ocean Park.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I know Alva and some other dudes were skating around there all the time because I would see them from where my mom lived on Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
And she lived in this penthouse apartment that isn't there anymore. The building is there, but they tore the penthouse part down. And you can still see the water heaters up there, maybe the water heaters for the building. And we used to look over and see kids skating by. When I say we, I would invite friends down with me to hang out, for the weekend or whatever, because that's when I would see my mom. And out in front, there were a couple of jetties where the POP pier used to be. And that's where I first got into the water, really, on a surfboard. Yeah.
What was the vibe down there? Oh, but you were surfing. It already had burned down, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was gone.
And was there a good wave there after?
The area had started to gentrify by the beach. They built, I don't know if there was a show called Three's Company. Mm-hmm. And in Three's Company, at the beginning, the opening of the show, the teaser or whatever, they are roller skating down the boardwalk there, and you can see, and the show was old, and you can see, it's all brand new. They had put the parking lot in there, and the jetties were there. I went out on a single fin, was probably my first
cool
session.
Single fin guy.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, you're kind of one of the cool kids, right? Like you know all the all the big names, you're hanging.
No. I took some notes so I could refer to them. But, it's the...
You're like friends with all the cool, like, single fin guys, right?
Yeah, not really.
So you've had kind of like, I don't know, we talk quite a bit, but you've had, and we surf, at least like once a week during the summer for sure. Up in Malibu and stuff.
Yeah, because you're chasing barrels during the winter, and I'm going up to C Street to find a logger wave.
A logger, yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right. I didn't really surf much this winter because I was in Hawaii for so long, and then I came back and it just rained pretty much all winter, and I didn't think that there was a lot of good waves at all. And I'll longboard, but if it's cold and I'm more like a fair weather longboarder, I guess. Yeah. No, you've had like the total LA sort of like, obviously you're from LA and stuff, but you've had the total like, was a model at a young age, and then you've sort of like had all these different chapters and stuff.
Yeah. Right.
And now you have this you're a psychotherapist.
I'm not a psychotherapist.
Okay.
I'm a trained therapist specializing in cognitive behavioral therapy. So I'm a cognitive behavioral therapy practitioner.
Okay.
It's a lot of, letters after your name, and a clinical hypnotherapist. That's my specialty. Mm-hmm. And relationship counselor or coach, however, whatever the marketing trend might be.
Sure.
I've had a practice for about 14 years now, and I see a wide range of people with issues, and solution-based, humanistic, but I don't do any deep psychotherapeutic work.
Okay.
It's
but you do hypnotize people.
I do hypnotize people.
Okay,
yeah.
that's.
Yeah.
What's up with that? That's a little scary, but also.
Yeah.
Do you have some stories about that, or?
Sure. I have hypothetical stories that I could share a little bit, but there's a lot of myths and misconceptions around hypnosis and going under. But for me, I'm not a hypnotherapist. That's why I do a lot of cognitive work with people, reframing and using positive psychology and stuff. At the end of the day, it all comes down to leveraging people's suggestibility and creating more openness to a solution-based way of looking at things. And hypnosis is kind of the icing on the cake, because if I can, it's like this conversation right now. You're open.
Are you hypnotizing me right now?
Yeah, you don't feel it?
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah. No, actually, when you're hypnotized, it can create a hyper state of awareness. Mm-hmm. But there are some that are what's called somnambulistic, where you're so suggestible that it's very easy for you to go into another sort of space of consciousness or brainwave pattern where you drift off, and you may not even remember what happened in the session, but something beneath the surface has been planted subconsciously, and that influences your behavior. But it's never something that you aren't on some level willing to exhibit.
Okay, I've got a question. Sure. Actually. What are your thoughts on, I mean, psychedelics are a huge topic right now, and I'm sure that you've, I don't know, formal training or just research and papers and things, but what is kind of your take on, I guess, I mean, I've even heard, for example, microdosing is just becoming more and more common, and I've sort of heard the take that, it's somewhat frowned upon now, but so were SSRIs 10, 15 years ago, and all that stuff. And then as well as journeys, what would your take be on like those two things for, I don't know, maybe some of your patients? So,
because
you're talking about that altered state of subconscious, right? Of course.
It's not exactly the same thing. I think that psychedelics can be from what I know, I'm not trained in using psychedelics, but I do have colleagues and friends that are, and are doing some really good work.
Cool.
And are doing retreats and extensive journeys around that. I think the aim there is to soften the ego. We know substances can soften sort of our ego identification, if you will, so that you can demonstrate less fear toward change, and you see life in a different light. I think it could probably expedite the reframing process and looking at things differently. But I think it should be guided or supervised, and there should be a context around it rather than just a recreational use. Although I've heard of people having a positive experience recreationally, but it's very hard to monitor and regulate in that way. Whereas, since I'm on the subject, going into an altered state of consciousness through hypnosis or meditation or breath work, which is something I have a background in.
Do you teach any breath work?
I don't formally teach breath work now, but I have, and I've taken many people on breathwork journeys where their state of being their state of consciousness is altered, and I've also experienced that. That's if it wasn't for breathwork, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Oh, really?
Unless we were just talking about surfing and I found your wallet, but I think there's definitely a link there.
You mean a profound breathwork experience that you had led to you going deeper or down this path?
Yeah,
generally?
down this path.
Okay.
Down this path. And I can tell you that story if you'd like, but it's those things also open you up, but hypnosis is about creating that openness and taking advantage of it, planting a seed,
right? Okay.
Harnessing some potential, influencing the mind as it opens up.
Almost like that movie Inception.
Remind me.
Oh, you didn't see that one?
I did see it, but I have a hard time remembering.
Well, they're basically trying to plant an idea deep into this guy's subconscious to not take over his, it's like this huge. Sounds like a lot of what you're talking about. I mean, I mean, I know it's a movie and everything, but you're basically saying getting the mind into a vulnerable state.
Yeah, an open state.
An open state.
It's a suggestible state.
Okay.
To give you an example, and this will sort of clarify, when you first wake up in the morning, before your mind becomes very active, and some people wake up and their mind's immediately very active, or the activity of their mind wakes them up. But just when you wake up in the morning, or just before you go to bed at night, when you're like kind of groggy, a little sleepy, those last 20 minutes kind of dozing off, or when you're taking a nap and you're kind of neither here nor there, you're in this liminal state in between.
I like that state.
You're in a suggestible state where if you're a Republican, I could whisper to you and kind of turn you into a Democrat,
really?
Or at least open you up to entertaining thoughts of being a Democrat, or vice versa. Hey, my buddy Trump,
this is becoming a political show here, episode 2.
Here we
go.
Those are just examples.
I really like that state. I feel very calm. I don't feel like I have any sort of worries.
Yeah.
That foggy kind of woke up a little drowsy state. Tired from a surf the day before, whatever.
So that's an alpha or maybe theta. It depends. Brainwave pattern. Sometimes I'll suggest to people, and it depends on the context. I might suggest to people, before you go to bed for the next, 7 days, before I see you again, just as you're going to bed, I want you to write this down, whatever the suggestion might be.
Interesting. So that's okay.
And in a way, they're employing some self-hypnotic techniques. They're leveraging their own ability to be suggestible to whatever positive change they want to make in their life. But the conversation leading up to it is always, the cognitive portion is always also important.
Okay.
Because it's all about, the session started the minute that you walked in the door. In this case,
hold on a second.
The minute I walked in the door.
The hypnosis session?
Well, the influence.
Okay.
The influence, because that's what it's all about. It's all about that influence. It's like, if you like the therapist you're working with, regardless of whether hypnosis is employed or not, you're more likely to go along with what he might suggest as, a way to suffer less. You might be more open to him, just like we're more open to a friend.
So let me ask you this. I mean, therapy has become a lot more popular since, I think, everyone was locked down. People's anxiety, mental health has been a huge topic over the past couple of years. What would you say that people are coming to you, if you're comfortable saying, kind of looking at your patients as a cohort, what are they coming to you to figure out? I mean, do they just need someone to talk to? Are they trying to accomplish something specific?
Because of my specialty using hypnosis and also emphasis on anxiety,
because you're kind
treatment.
of you also do like behavioral, like you're very, it's a behavioral modification thing. Is what you said,
I mean,
right?
it all is
something like that.
It all cognitive behavioral therapy,
okay,
which is a more contemporary version of therapy in general, or counseling. It's emphasizing behavioral change based upon becoming more aware of your behavior, and seeing the consequences of your behavior, and learning and accepting the power or control you might have over your behavior if you play a part in your behavior. And this is based on the premise that much of all of our behavior comes from below the surface.
Mm-hmm.
It's we may think we're in control.
Right. You asked me something like on the phone the other day.
Yeah. Well, you know what I do with people?
I don't know if I want to necessarily repeat.
You don't have to.
Yeah. But it was like, why do you think these people are doing this?
Yeah.
And it was like a very, without saying what the activity was, I guess it was like a very primitive thing, right?
Right.
To reproduce, I think it was.
Yeah, it might have had something to do with sex.
I took this art anthropology professor one year.
Yeah.
And it was really funny. He spent a whole lecture talking about how, everyone thinks like the big hips are in and the, voluptuous female body, and then why are the guys that are jacked getting the women? And he spent a whole lecture talking about it, and he's like, this is nothing new. We're actually programmed.
Right.
We see a woman with childbearing hips,
right,
and it goes into our most like primitive areas, and it signals to us like that's a mate, that's a potential mate. And then for females, it's like vice versa. I see a protector, I see someone that can look out for me and provide, et cetera, with like I mean, I think everyone has a preference, et cetera, but I just thought about him when you.
Yeah, I don't think, not that you're asking me, but it is a conversation.
I mean, I have certain preferences, and they're not typically aligned with.
But when it comes to those preferences, I would say there are other variables that come into play, because we're not just a body system, and what you're talking about is acknowledging the physical, the first, we could say the first level or the first stop as an organism is to reproduce, and the cells do that. So the cells are constantly reproducing.
Right.
But we have a body-mind system happening, and our psychology comes into play, and often our instinctual drive leverages our psychology as if it's trying to get the cooperation of the psychology. So it's like there may be a positive association that a person has from childhood, where it's like narrow hips is what gets them going.
Course.
So that comes into play.
Of course.
But they still have this attraction. There's just this little caveat, it's gotta have narrow hips, or I like thin legs, or things like that.
Yeah, I don't know why we haven't surfed Topanga, but we surf Malibu a lot. You've been kind of like, it's kind of funny when you're kind of one of those guys you're one of the guys that has surfed there for, that has surfed Malibu for 40 plus years, but you're sort of, I mean, you get your waves, but you're also low-key about it all, right? And no one really knows. I mean, everyone up there, but no one really like, watch out for that guy. Like, you just kind of get your waves.
Yeah.
You just kind of like go home,
Yeah, it's interesting. I've known and been friends with a lot of the sort of the players there over the years, but just kind of stayed outside of it a little bit. For sure. I've forged a couple of really wonderful relationships, like with Cassia, and I used to surf a lot with Ashley Lloyd, and so there are some special people that I've stayed connected with. But I have to say, and I've acknowledged this with Bodie, he's 17 and he's been longboarding since the beginning of COVID. That's when he switched from shortboarding to longboarding, and it's because we started driving up to C Street, and he's like, I want to try your log, and I have my original Scott Anderson Farberau 2 that I've had a few decades, and he's like, you can ride this one. And he fell in love with longboarding. So it's his, and then he fell in love with First Point. It's just
too bad he's a goofy foot,
Yeah, but I think he has an advantage there, like Cassia. Yeah, because it's like he he eyes the wave differently,
Mm-hmm.
and he stands, if you think of that, the top of the crest right at the pocket.
No, he does a great job.
It's like there's a little ledge right there where you
Right.
can just kind of lock, and it's harder to put weight on your toe side to stay right in that special spot. It's almost easier if it's
on your heel.
on your heels, because your weight naturally is going to be more in the heels, and it holds that side of the rail in the pocket. And it just looks good because it looks harder to be backside.
It kind of looks cooler, you know, and
I
especially if you can do the thing where you go to regular, you kind of switch.
Yeah.
You know, guys get a little too deep.
Yeah,
or something,
yeah. Like
and they-
Tudor does that, where it's like he's
Right.
got a theory that the water, the way it goes over your
absolutely.
ankles, and I'm sure it's true.
Well,
you
yeah,
know?
because you can get kind of knocked back.
Yeah,
But you can kind of put your weight over.
yeah.
Um,
But it's been Bodie that has kind of renewed my enthusiasm about surfing there in the crowds, because
Okay.
I've watched it. The first time I surfed second point and third as a shortboarder, I was like 15 years old. And I remember the only autograph that I've ever asked for from a celebrity personality was following a session at second where Sean Thompson was out.
No way.
And when I got out of the water, I mean, I was
Whoa.
so starstruck by this guy
Totally.
surfing next to him.
Yeah.
I went and got his autograph. And because he was like, wow. And it's cool because I'm friends with him today.
Are
Like,
you?
I know him. Yeah.
Cool.
And it's like, wow, this.
it's so funny. Like, sorry.
Yeah, but through the years, you know, then we went through the 90s and the sort of high performance longboard phase, and there's been a lot of, it's had a lot of different faces for me, literally the wave faces as well as the way it looks.
Well,
and
I was gonna,
and
then I was gonna ask you about that because
okay, we can go back to that.
I
for
wanted to go
sure.
back to that, and but first, it's really funny because living in LA, you come across like some pretty big. Every now and then, you'll just like bump in, or a friend of a friend will be friends with, you know, one of these big actors, and you know, you're always like, oh, this is cool. I get to meet this person, and you know, it's a cool thing. We live here. We deal with all the bullshit here, and so it's cool. But if like when I was in Hawaii this winter and I see, you know, John or like Kelly or something, I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I just kind of freak out, and it's just really interesting because it's, I mean, not that I could care less, but
Yeah.
it's just, I'm like absolutely starstruck if I were
Yeah.
to see a guy like Sean Thompson.
Yeah.
Or you know, any of these big
Yeah.
John, or I saw Kelly out, and I saw Mikey February at V-Land, and I was just, oh, I
'Cause
can't believe
what
I'm out with this guy. Like, this is crazy, you know?
I have to tell you, I'm
cool.
excited to talk about it, because I think psychologically, excuse the expression, it's like we have this association when we look at waves and people riding waves, especially when they're being ridden well by some of the examples that you're mentioning and I'm mentioning. There's such a strong positive association to it, and they're doing it. They're epitomizing that. And when we think about it, watch it, we relate to it as surfers, and they're doing it on a level that's like way up here, and it's their whole lives. So of course we're going to look at them sort of like a hero, you know, like
Absolutely.
and it's and that's why sometimes it's a letdown when they don't live up to that standard, but it's also unfair of us to,
Absolutely.
you know,
Put them on
expect,
right.
Yeah. So it's like
just
they're normal
us.
people.
They're
It's,
just like
it's no
us.
big deal.
Yeah.
You know,
For some reason, I just get a little weird. You
yeah,
know, with
yeah,
this all-
like kid.
absolutely.
And I think it happens for them too with their heroes.
Probably.
You know?
Yeah.
But
One of the big ones I saw was Bruce Irons at
yeah.
the Hermosa Playhouse.
okay.
And I was standing with like 2 or 3 of my friends, some of the guys from ET Surf.
Yeah.
And we were just like, oh my gosh, like, there he is.
Yeah. That's funny.
What do we do?
Yeah.
And, you know, a couple people got photos and stuff. But Bruce, growing up for me,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I know he's...
Yeah. No, he's a
but
charger.
for me, it was just,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, just slinging into these huge
Yeah.
teepees at Pipe, and
Yeah.
him and Andy battling.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was kind of the partier. And,
Yeah.
oh, man,
Yeah.
that was, I felt
And-
like a little girl.
And today it's kind of a trip because some of these heroes seem like they're so much more accessible because of social media. It's like,
Absolutely.
I mean, some of them you can DM and they'll respond to you, you know.
Oh, who have you been DMing?
The secret. But I've also had some, successful surfers DMing me because of what I do.
Okay,
and
cool.
That's been like, whoa! I remember when that first happened. I'm like, oh, okay, wow, this is a trip.
Cool. And did they know that you surfed or had a mutual friend at all?
Well, yeah, you can see that from Instagram.
You have photos and stuff.
I have photos, so it's like, oh yeah, I can relate.
Oh yeah, wait, what's in the? Hold on a second. You're not gonna let me do this without. You're the over 50.
Oh, right.
Longboard. What is this? Longboard champion or something?
Over 50.
Last year,
it's actually the 40 plus.
40 plus.
2022.
Do you want to look like right?
Western Surfing Association longboard champion.
Okay.
It wasn't too hard.
I'm sorry I didn't have that written down.
It wasn't too hard to do. All I really had to do was show up and walk to the nose.
Okay.
A few times over and over.
I've never seen you get on the nose. Is that?
Yeah. Thank you. That hurts, man.
Does it?
That hurts.
Cuts deep. Maybe we'll get a clip or something.
But
Nose Dodgers.
Yeah,
you know that account, Nose Dodgers Anonymous?
No, I don't.
You don't know that Instagram?
No.
Are you kidding?
Nose Dodgers. Are they like they don't get their toes all the way
right.
there?
It's like, when you get those. I'm guilty. I mean, I'm not a longboarder. It happens to me, but I don't post photos of it.
Yeah.
But these guys will post a photo on their Instagram.
Yeah.
And then someone will send it to Nose Dodgers, and their toes are like that far. You're supposed to hang over the.
Yeah.
You're supposed to curl them over.
I don't know if you're supposed to.
Well, but
it's because if you look
what the
back
cool kids are doing.
Yeah, but if you look back, because longboarding has progressed. It's like you watch kids today, and they're surfing, in my opinion, as good, if not better, than some of the greats that didn't have anyone doing it before them, So these kids have, people that have done it before them that they can follow and then improve on that. That's why it's very progressive. But, when you were coming off of longboarding in the 90s, there was a lot of two-stepping to the nose, and I've noticed there's a time and a place for that in a critical section if you just got to take 2 steps.
Run up there. Yeah,
2 steps. But I've had to kind of break my habit of that in traditional longboarding. But I have a lot of photos and clips of nose riding where my toes are not hanging over from 20 years ago.
But maybe they're right there.
Yeah, they're right there.
Because there's these ones I'm talking about in some of the photos. It's like
it's not trim. It's not nose riding because it's okay to be in trim too.
Oh, of course, that's kind of where I hang out.
But it's changed a lot, and it's. I was watching the contest in Bells today. This afternoon.
Saw a couple clips,
and
the waves looked really bad.
Tupi and I, Longboardarian, who I love. He's awesome. I love what he's doing with the culture and for the culture. But we were commenting back and forth, boom, 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 while we're watching the contest. Cool. We're texting and just about, the guys out there on more high performance longboards, even though they're single fins, maybe they have a little edge in their tail, like Taka and Nui and Soleil are going to have a little bit of an advantage on those waves that are, 6 feet plus. And it's bumpy. They're on the right equipment. And I'm really traditional. I like being traditional.
You are.
For sure. But, CJ Nelson is definitely on the right track with putting a little subtle edge there in the tail so you can just bite into the little bottom turn, a little quicker reaction. And I'm down for that, even though I'm riding traditional longboards.
Yeah, there's kind of a little bit of like it might be like Joel, it might be some of these guys like Joel and stuff, like they're more just like, no, like you have to ride one of these old heavy just ride it like that, and you only get nose rides on this type of section. And there's a little bit of a clash, right? And then there's this guy, who's the guy that surfs, I don't want to speak too far out of my wheelhouse, but there's a guy, he's Brazilian, and I think he shapes his own boards, and he surfs Malibu a bunch, and he's bald, and do you know who I'm talking about?
I don't know.
Does the full like 3-fin log thing,
Mm-hmm.
has these weird stripes on his board, and they're like bright blue or bright. You don't know who I'm talking about?
He's not a pro.
He might be a pro.
What's his name? He just got into a big beef with Joel, right?
Did he really?
At the Oceanside contest.
I didn't know that.
Rajman.
Did he really?
If that's
Surfs
the
Malibu
guy.
a bunch, like beard, bald.
Yeah, if that's the guy. Yeah. If that's
what
the
happened?
Guy.
What happened?
Phil Rajman, I think is his name.
That sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's a progressive. I mean, it's not even right to say he's a progressive longboarder because there's different kinds of progressiveness. Like CJ is a totally progressive longboarder, but he's not going all the way into using 3 fins. He's modifying traditional equipment and still surfing in a traditional way, but just taking it to the edge. It reminds me of, you got me started here.
I know. And I wish I was a little more.
But it reminds me of Tyler Hadzikian. No, it's good questioning, but Tyler Hadzikian in the movie Single Fin Yellow,
I've seen that a while ago.
It's got to be at least 15 years old or something.
El Segundo.
It's classic.
Yeah.
And his aim, he says it in the movie, is to pick up where longboarding finished in 1968, and he wanted to, overnight people were cutting their longboards in half and reshaping shorter boards with the blanks and selling their longboards. And the way my brother tells it, it's like he had a couple of longboards and he couldn't get rid of them, so he had to take the glass off and reshape the board because he was shaping. But Tyler wanted to pick up longboarding from that point to see where it would go if it's remained somewhat traditional as opposed to rockering a board out and making a long short board basically with multi fins. And look at Tyler Hadzikian surfing. He is definitely along the lines of how CJ is approaching a wave.
Right. And I mean, he's definitely like a legendary name around here and probably around the world. I mean, people know about Tyler.
Definitely.
And stuff like that.
But now you've got a whole new thing, but it's a new old thing with involvement boards, pig boards.
Right. I like the look of the pig board with the wide point back and everything, and the nose is kind of pulled in.
Yeah. But they're harder to nose ride because you have to ride them more in the pocket.
Well, it's like that board you loaned me, the Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I really need a wave to get
it feels
on that thing.
A little
on the nose.
Wiggly, on the nose. And I can see when I switched over from a more California template a couple of years ago and then watched footage of myself on a Thomas involvement style board, I could see I'm kind of shimmying when I'm going to the nose and I'm having trouble getting there so like the toes were back a little bit, not 3 inches, but and it's and I'm out on the face too far and so it's but I've worked on that. So
nice.
Trying to stay in that pocket.
Yeah. Back to Soleil. I mean, I think her boards to me look relatively traditional, but then I don't know who's shaping them. I don't, but I will say this, the lines that she draws on the wave looks like, to me, it looks like she's doing the right things. You know what I mean?
In my opinion,
it's like, wow.
Her cutbacks, a part of it, of course, is her. She's very progressive and she's super gifted and intuitive and a natural. But her equipment also, and I know Ryan Engel, shaper, and CJ working with him, and there's a couple others that have influenced that, and it's sort of creating the perfect combination of things at the right time that longboarding has needed it. So she's a leader, and that's why she's world champion.
It does look to have that kind of traditional outline.
It's a traditional involvement outline. Yeah,
I guess is the word
for sure. But there is a little edge in her tail towards the back.
And an involvement board, just the rails are just kind of like rolled or 50-50 all the way, or
the involvement aspect is more about the template and the wide point being back.
Okay, the outline.
Yeah,
pig.
And basically because it's a little bit narrower in the front, or a lot narrower, the swing weight is different, so you can pull those big cutbacks and then set yourself back up in the pocket again. And that's the thing. I'm still working. I'm always still working on it forever. But that's the goal, is to perfect that cutback. And you watch Harrison Roach, Soleil. I'm talking about regular footers on, at a spot like First Point that really know how to, and you can tell they've practiced it. You can see it. It's a thing. And then you watch others, or you watch, older footage of 5 years ago, whatever, and you can see, people are more obsessed with nose riding, just getting to the nose, and it's less involvement on the wave.
So that's the whole thing. It's about having a more well-rounded sort of surfing, where you're doing big turns. You might hit a floater. You're not just stand up, boom, 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 nose ride until you can to the beach. I the other day, last week actually, I think I told you, I went out on a new 7/8 single fin that my friend Josh of who has a brand, Sea of Green. Josh is a really awesome guy, and we've worked on a couple boards together, and I was excited about this single fin, and I took it out at Leo Carrillo because I was craving getting on a smaller board, but not craving getting on a 5.9 fish. I wasn't craving it that much. It's a 5.3.
5.3. I'm just saying my fish. Like
yours
had a couple
is a 5.9.
Fishes my brother shaped me before he passed away, but it's like I wanted to get on this board, and just because it's a different feel. But I'm not going to be nose riding it. But I appreciate that, and I follow that sort of that inclination. And it was funny because I ran into a guy who I've never met before, and he also had the same. He's a sponsored longboard. He's sponsored by Thomas, and he did the same thing that day. He's like, I just wanted to get some. Oh, that's some way. Neil Messmer.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. You told me you saw Steve up there as well.
Yeah, and I saw Steve.
But I was like, no, he doesn't ride Thomas.
Yeah, no. And they know each other, but
Steve's a good guy.
We connected. Neil and I connected on this idea that we both were done with our logs for the week.
Nice.
And
I like it.
And he had I think it's called the MV2 by Thomas, and it's like 6'8" or something, I think. But when you go to a 7/8 still sounds really long, but when you go to it, when you've been riding a 10-foot longboard for the last 2 months of summer or whatever, it's like, wow, this thing feels so loose, and you can kind of flick it around. It's a trip. And then you get used to it, and it starts to feel a little stiffer. But
will you cross step up and down a 7/8 or
no? You might do a little cheater 5, which is fun, and that's why I wax my board.
You'll just kind of scoot up there.
Yeah, and it's kind of like I associate that with Bo Young, who's also a really sweet, wonderful human being. And I just, he crosses over from longboards to shortboards, always has, amazing surfer. And he does that where he does that cheater 5.
In the video you sent me too, the woman riding that twin pin looking thing, she was cross stepping all around.
Oh yeah, no, the single fin, that's the similar board, the super stock by McTavish. That's basically the same board, because you got design.
2. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and Josie Pendergrass,
but 7.6 is just a little too short.
7.8.
7.8.
Yeah.
For you to kind of want to.
Yeah, no, you can't. It's not stable enough.
Right. Okay. Because I had a super wide 8.6.
Yeah.
And I would kind of cross step up to trim.
But it also depends on the rocker too, because if it's really flat rocker, it kind of invites you to step into trim there.
It was like a big fish thing, flat for when it was tiny.
Yeah.
That was really fun. Yeah, we've had some good days. I haven't longboarded much at all this summer.
Yeah.
I think I've been so happy with that little fish.
Yeah, I know. And you're patient. You sit out there with patience.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, got to do what you got to do out there. But yeah, it's hard because you'll sit on the log and you're having fun. And it's nice. It's more like community kind of. It's more like fun. And
yeah.
you maybe get a party wave or,
yeah.
You know, you don't always want me on it, but I'll go. And
yeah. I think when it comes to equipment choice, we all have, and it depends on the individual, but there's a fascination. What keeps bringing you back is, you know, the desire to, you know, do something, maybe something more or get better at something. And if you've got that, like once you get hooked on nose riding and you feel that sensation, then you want to keep coming back to it and seeing if I can get better at this. And it's like with the cutbacks, it's like, oh yeah, on an involvement style board, that cutback, that, you know, the ideal is like what Soleil and Harrison are doing and a lot of others, but those are a couple of go-tos I like. And you're like,
I mean, they both won the, you know, the contest at Malibu.
Yeah. The last
year,
championship.
Right? Which we were on the beach actually hanging
Yeah.
out. And then we paddled out. The tide got way too high.
Yeah.
But that was so good during that contest.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
gosh.
You're just like, wow, I'm at Disneyland watching Mickey Mouse
my
right
gosh.
now.
Yeah.
My
that was
heroes.
some good surfing.
Not to compare them to.
I mean, I think we grab boards and we're chasing that feeling and we just want to have fun. I mean, who cares? Who really cares at the end of the day, like what you're riding? Who's to judge you for what you're riding? If you're having fun, I mean,
but there is judgment out there, you know.
I'm not judging you, but everyone else
is. Either am I. Whatever you have fun on, do it.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Right. And
Absolutely.
so I mean, lately for me, I'm just so much more comfortable on like a short, like something shorter and something I can just whip around.
Skatey.
Especially it's hard when, you know, you're out there and you see just like a nice, like shoulder high, perfect little peeler and you're on your log and you're kind of like, oh, wow, it looks pretty rippable, you know? And then then I run in and grab the fish.
Yeah.
You know? It's usually on the wall or something.
Whereas, and I appreciate that. Absolutely. And I experienced that for sure. But speaking from a longboarding perspective, also that same face, you look at it and you see it starting to line up and you're like, I want to put my nose right there with my toes, you know, and then once I do that, I want to get out on that shoulder and open my shoulders and come back around. And as long as I don't have that down perfectly, I want to come back to it because I want to get that nice flow and grace and style and all those other words.
Yeah, I longboarded a little bit growing up, but it's such an interesting thing. You read waves. You have to read the wave a lot differently because your board doesn't turn as quick. Like on this little fish thing, I could just, I see a little lip popping up. It's like, boom, boom. I just wham right away. Yeah. What I noticed and what was really got me longboarding a lot last year was you had to look. It was a full like 2 seconds. You know, you had to figure out. You had to start doing, you know, what you wanted to do way earlier. You had to know what the wave was going to do a lot earlier. And it became different. It became harder and a new challenge, especially in these small little waves. So
it's funny. I have to use it's helpful when I use analogies in therapy. And even though some of my clients aren't surfers, I can't help but use a surfing analogy because more and more people, even if they don't surf, can relate to it. The challenge of a wave, the idea of a wave, an ebb and a flow, a tidal swing, things like this. And my love of surfing like sneaks in all the time into the conversation with clients as I attempt to create analogies to help them see things a little bit differently or from a different perspective, you know, or use a different lens.
Were you gonna give us an analogy right now, or was that just
No, I was just saying it's
how it's the longboarding and the shortboarding has kind of a different
timing.
it's
a different experience. It's a different thing.
It's apples to oranges.
Yeah, in a sense, but they're both fruits.
Okay. Well, I got a couple of our standard kind of canned questions.
All right.
Are you ready for it?
Sure.
So number 1 is, who's your favorite surfer right now?
Wow, who's my favorite surfer?
Yeah, this is tough for you, right? Because you're.
Yeah, it's funny because of my sort of eclectic appreciation.
Oh right, yeah, you're eclectic.
but who do I like coming back to and watching, or if I want a reminder about, okay.
I know it's tough. It's just like, who are you excited about? I mean, you brought up Harrison, you brought up Soleil several times.
Yeah.
But I don't think those are your favorite surfers. Maybe they are. I don't. But who do you want to watch surf right now? If you could watch anyone surf.
Well, if we were just sitting down here and I had an unlimited sort of stream of watching somebody, Soleil would be great.
Really?
To watch. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she surfs intelligently. She's longboarding.
Right. Of course it's going to be a longboarder.
But not necessarily. It's like it's nice to watch.
Okay, well, why don't you throw out
Matt, and I don't want to butcher his last name, Matt C. Matt
C.
Well, he's one of the hosts on the commentators on the WSL on the longboard tour.
I have no.
Chayaski.
I have. Is he the Aussie guy?
Yeah.
Wax head.
Yeah, the wax head.
Oh,
that's
okay.
Right.
Cool. Yeah.
And apologies to him. The name's hard.
Just say the wax head.
Easy. Yeah, I should have said that. Can you edit that part out in case he listens to this?
No, I'm not gonna.
No, he's a super.
If you want me to.
The guy's such an intelligent. He's got such an intelligent and he's so well versed in the history. But he rides everything, and I like watching him a lot. I also like watching CJ Nelson, and I wish he had more straight up footage that wasn't sort of doctored and edited. I like Michael February for sure.
I think that you've kind of hit the quote.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a few too many. Like about 4 too many.
I like Chase, who's a great surfer.
All right, that's enough.
Chase El Porto. That's the way you are in my phone.
Still,
yeah.
Nice. You're Sahakian.
That's right.
Okay, great. Yeah, so a lot of good surfers there.
Yeah.
What about your favorite place to surf?
Let's say it's funny because I haven't longboarded there that much. But I do like that wave at Guiones in Costa Rica, Nosara.
Is that a left?
It's a beach break.
What's it called?
Guiones.
Okay.
It's in Nosara in Costa Rica.
Okay.
And first time surfing there was in '87, and now it's completely overrun with surf schools and tourists and stuff. Mm-hmm. But it is a fun wave. It's not a challenging wave particularly unless it's really big. But it's a dynamic sort of beach break because there's lots of waves coming through. So you get a lot of waves, and that's always nice. And you can ride medium-sized equipment, sort of fun stuff.
Costa Rican beach break. Okay.
Yeah. But there are a couple of spots up in Malibu that are considered private that I like surfing on good swells that I go to by myself.
Really?
Private
Malibu.
Yeah, there's such a thing.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure I know the spot.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And anyone who knows it, knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's fun. Don't bring a bunch of people, but that's also become pretty overrun. But I used to do that for years and years and years with nobody and live there for a minute. But I don't like, let's put it this way, I don't like cold water much.
I don't either.
And the older I get, the harder it is to make my body do what I want it to do.
I actually wanted to ask you a little bit about that.
Aging?
Yes.
Nobody's going to be interested in that.
Really? I don't care.
All right.
I mean, I've noticed. I'm 32, and I've noticed. I mean, like when I was in Hawaii, man, like, I mean, I was surfing a lot in heavy waves, but like
it takes 10 years off at least.
Man, like I was like going for the ibuprofen and everything.
Oh, you were?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah. And I know you're like a pretty wholesome guy, but
no,
I was 911, man. Like
going to Costa Rica, I
had to
load up on the Advil, but recently in the last year or so, I haven't had to do that as much, and I think it might have to do with diet and more water and turmeric and
you know, I was in the gym quite a bit. I was in really good shape when I went out there.
Yeah,
I was you know, pretty light. Feeling good. I'd been doing a lot of cardio, but man, I mean, just in the sun.
Yeah, you just don't recover as fast. That's all.
That's exactly
bottom
it.
line.
That's exactly what it is. I'm not recovering.
Yeah.
What have you done? I mean, you know, you look okay. You know. Yeah. No, but seriously, I mean, what do you do? What are you doing to keep yourself kind of? Because I want to surf till I get up there. I really do.
Yeah, it's
the whole thing.
I have a few concerns about things for sure wearing out. I used to, for about 20 years, I was like surfing almost every day. You know, checking the surf every morning. And I don't do that as much. I like slow down on purpose so I don't wear out. I've got a rib knot on my right rib, so my rib sticks out, and it's a perpetual bruise. So when you
lay down on the board,
when I lay down, I'm never going to be wearing a rash guard or barebacking it ever again, because
you have to wear a wetsuit.
Yeah, I got to wear
to
a
add
vest.
the padding or a vest.
Yeah, to have
that's cool.
1 millimeter. But yeah, I do cardio every day. I do, if I'm not surfing, I spin. I have a spinning bike, and I do that. And then I go to the gym twice a week and do some legs and, you know, pick up a couple of weights just to keep the ligaments strong. And
I don't know if I'm ready to do all that.
Yeah.
Sounds a little extra.
Yeah. I mean, it's something I like to do. And
I know.
But and I practiced yoga for like over 20 years and taught yoga for just about the same amount of time. So I've practiced yoga for like almost 30 years. So that's still a big part of my.
So you're a really active guy. That's kind of the key. Is just don't
slow
down.
But stretching is really important. And when I hear heroes like Jerry Lopez talk about how important his yoga practice has been in his life, I relate to that fully on many levels, not just the physical level. So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, seriously. I'd like to surf at this level for another, hopefully, 8 years, if that's possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe till 40.
No, you should be surfing the way you're surfing till you're 50.
I really hope so.
Sure.
I really, because
for sure.
Yeah, just there's a lot more to get done, a lot more waves to have, you know.
Yeah.
And so okay, and I know you're not like. Do you happen to have a favorite skateboarder? You're not a big skater anymore, but
yeah, I mean, you know, who's been an amazing, I mean, an idol, you know, someone like Alva for sure. I think Tony Hawk is. I mean, these are sort of obvious, easy go-tos.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't follow the skate community closely.
No, that's
I used to skate a lot, and but when they invented the Carver, which is like
you're just into the Carver,
the best surfing training tool for getting your shoulders open and that whole. I mean, I never really drank
the Carver cool. Like I surf skated every day to check the waves. I used to skate and I had my whole thing routine, driveways, speed bumps.
But it's just getting on rail. It's
20 years
getting
ago.
on rail, and it mimics that in the body language for sure. And you can always see somebody who is trying to surf, like they're learning to surf. Maybe they've even been surfing 10 years and you put them on a carver and you're like, let's like ride 100%. This. And you're like, they can't figure it out. And you're like, yeah, exactly. You need to figure this out.
Yeah. You're 100. I don't know about the carvers, but I used to tell buddies, my backside turn, go skate.
Yeah.
If it's flat, go skate.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And just like, do little airs or whatever you're trying to work on.
So the carver just sort of, if you're not into doing airs or whatever, that's not your thing. It gets you into the body English,
right?
Your shoulders over your hips, and where the eyes are going. So
yeah, I mean, whatever. It's the same with surfing. Whatever you're having fun on.
And now
I've ridden those. I'll ride those.
Yeah,
but
I'm watching a lot of. Surf trainers now on social media, just the right ones. Hawaiian, they're usually Hawaiian.
Okay, yeah. Because there was a funny, even Kelly Slater called one of them out.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you see that one?
I didn't, but I want to.
It's like this guy on a carver, and he's like,
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that.
No,
at all.
I
I'm talking about
I know what you're
the surf trainers that are using kettlebells and body weight to stay fit and to improve things as you age, because I thought that's what we're still talking about.
No, honestly, and when I was in the gym, I was probably doing some of my best surfing.
Yeah.
And now I just skate when it's flat.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I, stay active and stay moving, but I also blow my ankles out.
Yeah.
While doing
I don't want to, like we were talking about with Tuma.
I'm surfing with taped up ankles.
Don't want to get injured.
Yeah,
I injured my left knee. My right knee was already the cartilage is worn out, and then I injured myself snowboarding my left knee, and it's taken. I mean, it's going to be a year.
It takes a while.
It's still hurting a little bit.
The bike's probably really good for that.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so I got your favorite surfer. Okay, cool. Yeah, is there anything you kind of would want to well, I did see this clip, and you should actually check this out as well. It's just like a little clip of the week, a little shout out. I watched today, John Florence just put together like a little 10-minute edit about filmmaking and his relationship with the Red, the camera company, Red Digital Cinema. And it's just very beautiful, very artful, almost like a little mini doc. And I talked about this with Toom a little bit last week with like Dane Reynolds, but John seems to have the same kind of trajectory going on, where he has this little production company, sponsors that are like really involved, where after competition, he's just going to have like a really lengthy kind of career, just making amazing films and sailing. And it's just like, it's so cool to see, because I think that a lot of the pros that I grew up watching, didn't necessarily have those same opportunities. It was sort of like they were getting these checks from their sponsors, they were getting these checks from the comp, but now what? And I see this film is really freaking sweet, so we're gonna send a link or something.
Nice.
Other than that, is there any last words or?
Sure.
Is there like a hotline, like reach out if you need, therapy or something?
Yeah.
Kind of, right?
JohnSahakian.com.
Yeah.
I'm thinking right now, you asked me to, if I wanted to be a part of this podcast, and you talked about meditation, and, there's a beautiful link, and I'm not speaking about link like computer link, but a link, the old school link between two things.
Old school.
Yeah. And this idea that you just mentioned about a surfer leveraging their career and turning it into something after their career. And John his career's not over.
Absolutely.
But he's got this, you recognize this trajectory. And a surfer I always admired for his style and his goofy footness was Tom Carroll. And Tom Carroll is a huge proponent of meditation, and he teaches meditation and holds space for people around that. And this is something that I've been really impressed by, that he came around to this in his life and discovered a talent to share it. And I relate to that, not to the pro surfer side of it, but just to sharing this practice of meditation and how it can inform your surfing and how it can inform how you conduct yourself in the water and deal with crowds and learn to be thankful for the waves that we can catch and the people that we can meet and the challenges that we do have, because the challenges, whatever it is, crowds, people, injury, aging, conflict between longboards and shortboards, and in my life, helping people therapeutically, meditation is a very powerful tool. And so that's what I'd like to add.
Okay, so go meditate. That's what
go meditate.
Saying. Perfect. Meditate and destroy. All right. That's it for the Dreamrun podcast, Volume 2 with John Sahakian.
That's right.
So appreciate you guys listening, and let us know who you want to who you want us to have on the podcast next. Who could possibly top this? And
what's that? You want me on again? Some of my humor will be better.